The views and opinions expressed on Beautiful Disasters are those of the panelists and not those of the Geeks Under the Influence Network, their sponsors, or anyone else involved. Also, there is going to be a lot of adult language used on this podcast, so please keep your little kiddies away unless you don't care about them that much.
Welcome back to Beautiful Disasters, and yet another edition of a Die for Dead formats. I am the Grutz, and with me, as always in this series, is...
Jesse Jones.
Oh yeah. And we have a stupid fucking movie was turned out more awesome than we thought.
Yeah.
By the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was terrible until like the last 15 minutes, and then it was like, oh, that's interesting.
So our last one we kind of cheated because we wanted to get in like a horror flick for the tail end of Schlocktober, but now we have returned with our previous rolled selection of a 1975 movie from Italy called Sex Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the VHS box. This is VHS. Never made it past that. Said 1980, but it actually came out in 75. But I swear to God, it looked like it was shot in the late 60s.
That's what I was thinking. Like
it looked terrible.
The film grain, everything was like this is like 1965.
Yeah.
Like,
so
it looked like a colorized, originally black and white.
Strangely, this is a sort of a sci-fi movie that takes place in the year 2037.
Yeah, sci-fi. It's like kind of post-apocalypse, kind of.
The basic premise, which is pretty damn thin, is that all electricity and I guess all renewable.
Well,
it's mostly
it was no more coal, no more oil. So they ran out of all fossil fuels.
Yes,
and
they had depleted.
So that was like the only way they could make electricity. So
yes, they had depleted all of their non-renewable sources. So they needed to figure out how to make electricity. So the movie.
Well, in the beginning, it was like they society had reverted back to like human and horse pulled like wagons,
yes,
stuff like that, and there candlelight, all that kind of stuff. So they went back to sort of a primitive. You still had all these buildings and stuff, but like they would gaze off at airplanes and talk about how they used to fly and all this other stuff.
Yeah, they're just sitting on tarmacs, unused. You've got a car, like a little Fiat with a fucking sail on it going down the street.
Yeah, you had people that would still like rich people that still owned vehicles, and they kept polishing them, in the hopes that someday,
one day.
But most people considered electricity to be, an old ancient myth.
Right.
At that point.
Yeah, it's no longer around. So we're focusing on the main character is this scientist, this professor, that has decided to try to harness electricity through the use of the human body. So the first thing I thought was like, oh, he's going to make this shit like the Matrix,
Yeah.
Use people as batteries. Now, he has a much more interesting concept where he wants to harness electricity through sexual activity. Hence the title, Sex Machine.
Yeah, the Sex Machine.
So...
Other scientists, other of his colleagues are doing different experiments. One guy is experimenting with solar power, and which is for some reason a complete failure.
Yeah, hilarious. They've even tried superheated banana juice.
Yeah, superheated banana juice.
I remember hearing that.
The best one though was like generating electricity through people that had fevers.
Yes.
if you were febrile, you could like. They could gather heat energy from you.
So just like, give everybody the fucking flu.
Yeah.
You're going to be really miserable, but you can run your TV.
You get internet access, but
oh man. So yes, he has this small team 2 male assistants and 2 female assistants, and he informs them that he's going to require them to participate in these studies, for the betterment of science.
And keep it secret. Don't tell anybody.
Of course. And so it gets down to, I guess, one of his female assistants and one of his male assistants.
No, it was a female assistant
First.
and she, had to basically get naked, and then they all had to rub up on her,
Yes.
rub her up, give her a rub down, essentially,
And they were
basically massaging and
attaching electrical,
heavy petting kind of stuff.
Stimulation points on her to harness electricity.
Yeah.
And they got a little bit of results, so it's like, oh, next stage. All right, so you and the male assistant got to get it on.
Yeah, because he wants to power light bulbs this time.
Right.
So he goes to some trader and buys intact light bulbs.
Yeah.
On the cheap because they can't be used anymore.
So it's a little awkward, but they do get it on, and this is a sex comedy from Italy, so the humor is idiotic and stupid. The dialogue is hilarious most of the time.
The cultural divide is vast.
Yes. It's very much like a more. It's almost as absurd as Benny Hill, really, in a way.
I think Benny Hill was a little more refined.
Could be.
A little more highbrow.
Maybe.
Than this. I mean, this wasn't as chaotic. It wasn't like a romp movie.
But it had some slapsticky style moments.
It had, a couple here and there.
And just silly jokes. So they do perform in this test. They get some power to light bulbs. So, okay, they're going to keep refining. Then they design these electromagnetic energy collector panels that they put under the mattresses.
Yeah.
So that the male assistant was complaining that, everybody was looking and I also had electrodes on my scrotum. So they're like, okay, well, let's make this a little easier. So then, what's
oh my God. So he buys a chandelier. That's the next thing. You want a power chandelier.
Right.
That's the next step. And instead of advertising for a scientific experiment, which massive amounts of people would probably be down for, instead of just saying, hey, come participate in the experiment where you have to basically have sex and we'll pay you, instead of doing that, they find 2 people that they consider to be good candidates, one of whom is married with, the woman is married with 8 kids. I don't know if he thought that she would be a good candidate, but the guy was like this, this ladies' man who ran a hotel and has an entirely female staff, and they all love him, and women just he pleases a lot of ladies, right?
Yeah.
So instead of recruiting them, he has them run over.
Which is hilarious because, yes, they come up with this idea. It's like, well, where do we find 2 sexual athletes?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Champions.
The police. And that's how they identify.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's how they identify these 2 people. But instead of just
because they say the police know everything about everybody and they have a file.
Yeah. So instead of just trying to recruit them regularly, yes, they basically run them over with horse-drawn ambulance carriages and break bones in their body and put them in this hospital room next to each other in beds. It's just them in the room, but they're now the ideal subjects for this experiment. And
they keep them in there for weeks until they can become attracted to each other somehow.
Yes.
They try all these different...
I do have to say, this main professor, Professor Coppola, he is a man with a vision.
He's driven.
He is very driven.
And he has focus, and he doesn't get distracted.
And, I mean, it's very scientific. He's like, where are the erogenous zones? And he pulls out a manual. Well, wait, I'll tell you. It's a... So, yes, they have them hold up, and eventually it's only a matter of time before their libidos become a thing. And, of course, they have them hold up next to each other naked.
Yeah.
Right? So they're not even fucking clothed. Takes a few days, but they finally get it on.
Yeah.
And they start getting the result they need. And that's when they, fucking pop the chandelier.
Yeah.
They get the chandelier lit up and it, explodes. Because, the dude, gets girl off like 10 times or whatever it is.
That is what it is. Like it's 10 times is their mark.
10 times is the sweet spot. That's where you're gonna back up some amps into the battery, you know.
And then I think it's he wants to see. So we have these sexual athletes become regular people. Was that before or after they had the council meeting? Was that before they got found out? Or?
Yeah, that's right before. So like they get some really great results out of these people. The last time, right before they're about to be discharged, he gets her off like 9 times, right? And I guess they're both leaving, and he's.
Well, she gets discharged first, and and then the assistant has to step in and try to have sex with him.
Exactly. So she knocks out that number 10. But as he's like walking out, I think this was internal monologue. I don't think he actually said it, but he said, because her husband is one of the rival professors.
Yeah.
So he says something to the effect of, in his inner monologue, "So professor, would you mind leaving your wife for one more day so she can get fucked 10 more times to advance Italian scientific progress?" Oh my God. And and as the a fun little bit, as the assistant runs over to knock out number 10, she passes an orderly pushing a patient on a gurney, and she's running like disrobing naked, and they get distracted, and he pushes the guy into a wall. The guy's like, "Oh, my catheter!" We just had a nice little chuckle, little slapsticky moment.
That was
there.
Especially like funny to me.
So it's not, but maybe a couple days after release that, independent of each other, both of these sexual athletes end up re-breaking limbs of theirs
that's
to
the
get
thing, like,
back in.
The assistant is only able to have sex with him one time because he's really in love with this other girl, right?
Yes.
That's what's really happening, is they're, in love. That's not the direction that the story's going, but which you'll find out later. But so he wants her address because she gets discharged first, and then the husband's like, I want me to take them home to our 8 kids and stuff like that, and she's clearly crying because she's sad about leaving. So she leaves. He asks for her address, and then they both end up breaking their own limbs independently to try to get readmitted.
To get back in.
She doesn't know he's been discharged, so she breaks her like shin.
Yeah.
With a turkey baster, and then with a turkey with a meat tenderizer with a turkey baster. Damn.
That's a hardcore baster.
with a meat tenderizer, and then she gets readmitted, and then he's readmitted by he smashes his hand with a brick.
Yeah.
Or something.
That's brutal, man.
And I was making the comment, like, how did he wait, where's the that's a plot hole. Like, how did he even know that she was? But then, of course,
that exposition came. Literally the next scene.
So I was happy about that.
So they're back at it. They're back generating electricity. The professor is increasing, the effectiveness of everything, and
now it's powering street lights, and
yes, and he makes a comment after dude gets her off 9 times. Who does he think he is? Stopping after 9. Beethoven?
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Give me that 10th symphony.
Oh, man.
Oh, no, but he also, after that 9th time, he uses a very offensive expletive in our day and age.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes, he does.
He calls him a useless F word.
Yeah. Oh,
not ending in UCK.
Oh my goodness. So yes, they are able to light up the entire outside of the hospital and the street in front of it with their most recent copulation. So the doc goes back to his home where he has a wife who's also hot, and he is like, well, let me see if this works,
He wants to know how much he can produce.
We want to know. We need to know if anybody. We don't need to have. We can't just rely on sexual athletes.
Yeah.
We need to know that everybody can do this for the betterment of society. So he goes to to get a piece of his wife.
Yeah.
Which he keeps calling her his piece. I was like, okay. Yeah. So...
And he wants to power. He was like running through items that he could power, and he was like, "Let's start with like a hi-fi,
a record player."
Yeah,
I'll come back and play later. So then he ends up in front of a panel of local officials. So it looks like there's military guys there. There's the church, the head of the church,
the Pope, and like
like politicians and police and like. All the head honchos of the town are like, all right, so what's the deal? Like, all the lights were on at the hospital. What you got going on? So he spills the beans. It's like, all right, here's the deal. I figured out a way to generate electricity pretty damn reliably by people fucking.
Yep.
And of course, the only one that's kind of aghast by this is the fucking Pope or Cardinal, whoever he was, the church guy. And he's like, well, I mean, we need to continue this research, so let's get it on. And
the head of state and he and the doctor have to sort of convince the priest to be on their side so that he'll sign off because they need his consent for the country to like.
Right. Takes a little bit of a little bit of convincing, mostly for the church guy, but like they set up this operation in the hospital. And this is when they do bring in the public. Yeah. And they have all these rooms. Like, every room is occupied. They're coupling people off in every manner, they can. Yeah. And some of the best writing came out of this whole situation where they're measuring the amount of, like, amps they're getting from different activities.
Different sexual activities.
Like coitus normalis.
Coitus normalis is the
4
first
amps
one.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Coitus inter anus. 5 amps. What was it?
What was the, there was coitus homosexualis.
9 amps.
9 amps.
Which is double, basically. double power. So, yeah, there you go.
But what was the ridiculous one? It was,
there was a few. There was giving headis.
Yeah, coitus giving headis.
That was less. And then there was the least, which was coitus jerk office in the bolus.
In toilet bolus.
In toilet bolus.
No. It was jerkus. It was coitus jerk office inter toilet bolum or something like that. but a fart was like 1 amp or something like that.
Yeah, it registered
like, just
something.
Interesting. Yeah,
I was like,
oh, farting works too.
All right. There's always a backup. So yeah.
But then I think the next plot point was that he was concerned that it wasn't sex alone, that it was actually intimacy and love that was generating the power. So he needed some way to figure that.
He needed to figure out if because he started seeing diminishing returns from his sex.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's what it was. And yes, so that's at that point he goes back to his wife. Yeah. And he walks in on her getting it on with like the doorman.
Well, he walks in on his record player playing and
going off.
And then he thought, it was like, oh, silly me, I didn't take off the metal plates, and then he realizes,
oh wait, what's happening?
Yeah.
So he ends up confronting his wife and being like, all right, so do you love him? And she's like, no, I just needed to,
It was. I felt nothing more than eating an egg.
Yeah.
Like that was it.
I just need to get it on.
It's just maintenance. Yeah.
So,
and that gave him his epiphany. He was like so happy about it. He was like, yes, we could separate love from the equation. This is fantastic.
This is great. Science wins. I don't care about you, wife. So then he has a conversation with the panel again of officials.
Yeah.
Where he starts talking about, so we really need to get this to the next level. We need to encourage, homosexuality, rape.
And even rape, he says.
Rape.
Jesus
like,
Christ.
What the fuck? And oh God.
Jesus.
What did he say? Something
Christ.
like the family that lays and like it's
that was a little later.
That was later.
A family that
lays together as lights forever. Basically promoting incest.
We're jumping ahead a little bit though.
But so he's presenting all this stuff, and at one point the scientific findings start to dip. They're seeing like 12% reduction in their experiments over this whole hospital situation.
Which is the whole. There was a whole scene that we're missing. Is that when they had the experiment where they had the dude meet the girl. They had her perform because she's a flautist, that mother of 8 kids.
Yes.
She's a flautist, even though she's like playing a fucking clarinet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so she's performing a concert, and it's all a ruse to get her up into the. I forgot where that fit in there.
She fell
because it was before what we're talking about now.
Yes, she fell on her clarinet.
Well, she saw the guy that she was in love with, the hotel manager.
Yeah,
they got everybody into this hotel.
Because at this point, they weren't really relying on them anymore.
Yeah.
They were relying on the big experiment.
And then she faints and ends up with this huge ass clarinet, like almost all the way
down her throat. Yeah. She basically swallowed the damn thing. So she ends back up in the room. He's back up in there with her. Clarinet comes out, and that's sort of the epiphany, and with the reduced overall results, because people are actually coupling.
Yeah.
So like, I guess it goes on the idea that everything is hot and heavy in the beginning of a relationship, and then it kind of, as people get more used to each other, they're not fucking as much.
People are starting to, now that they're really encouraging all this sexual activity, people are focusing more on intimacy, because I think they're becoming desensitized to this sex in society now. So
this is where the turn happens, where he comes up to the cardinal, the religious guy, Pope, whatever it is, and was like, all right, listen, we need to add a new deadly sin.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to discourage people from having love and sentiment.
Yeah.
We need to make that
illegal.
A sin. We need to make it illegal.
Put people in prison for life for falling in love. Criminalize hand holding and all this other shit. Any show of intimacy, giving flowers, basically making love a crime. A total verboten.
That will be the formula that will restore power to the world. And it fucking works.
And it works. It fucking works.
We have a scene where people are like holding hands in the park, and they get arrested for malicious hand holding.
Malicious hand holding.
Like the police are like raiding them. But we have a montage of cities are working again, planes are flying, like
the doctor
gets
a Nobel Prize.
2 Nobel Prizes.
2 Nobel Prizes, that's right.
Motherfucker. He's loving it.
Yeah. And the end of the movie, you've got this big party at this nice, lavish hotel where, everybody's sitting around, and like the original couple,
the original sex athletes,
and her husband, who was plot point we forgot to mention, who was one of the other doctor colleagues.
Yeah, he got paralyzed at some point, right?
Yeah, I didn't even know how that.
I don't even know.
That was just they just threw it in there at the end. But he was concerned that his wife was like actually in love with this guy that she was fucking, and they actually were, and they snuck off to a place to to just hold hands with each other and be intimate without sex.
Yeah. And they're hiding in the bushes, basically.
And not having sex.
And they get caught, and it's like, oh, they're coming. Quick, fuck me.
Quick, screw me. So they're getting it on, and the husband rolls by in his wheelchair, and he's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he was like, oh. And everything was hunky-dory. And, like, that was the fucking end of the movie.
Yeah, like, the professor basically is just... He has this little, internal monologue where it's just basically like, well, I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah. He completely broke society and turned it into a new... He completely changed the human experience.
He made it into a giant worldwide orgy, but now society is powered again.
Yeah, society, like, we have modern technology and convenience again at the expense of
Love.
It was like Equilibrium, only with lots of sex.
Oh my god. What the fuck?
The weirdest post-apocalypse movie I've ever seen.
I know, it went from... in the span of one movie, it went from quasi-dystopia to utopia to anti-utopia.
Yeah,
like, all in kind of one...
Fuck?
Like,
Egalitarian, like... I don't know, post-egalitarian? I don't know what you would call it.
and we are definitely, like, overstating the... We can't overstate enough that this was a silly as fuck, nudie sex comedy.
Yeah, that's...
From Italy.
That's what it was, yeah. It's in Italy, lots of boobs.
But we
Lots
were
of
not
exposed
expecting,
boobs.
like, the societal impact. I expected a happy ending.
I guess it was,
Kind of?
but it was kind of fucking dark.
It was fucked up.
It was a fucked up. But I mean, I guess in 1975, it was like well, that is utopia, free love. But like, remove the love, it's just
Yeah.
free sex. Like I don't know.
That was,
I wasn't expecting that ending at
yeah.
all.
No, neither was I.
a twist.
And I was like, what the fuck? And the movie, and the credits just rolled, and we're like, what
That's the
fuck?
end. Like they didn't
Damn
get
it.
back to. They didn't bring society back to like. Yeah, it's okay to be in love. No, they fixed the world by removing love.
Oh my god.
It was like a Rick Sanchez utopia.
Jeez.
Like, Jesus Christ.
This was something else, man. This was directed by a guy named Pasquale Festa Campanile, who basically just did a whole shit ton of zany Italian comedies through the 60s, 70s,
Yeah.
and 80s. I think I only saw like one or two action flicks in there. But I had more fun with this than I thought I was going to have. I thought this was just going to be total trash.
Yeah.
And just a weird ass
It wasn't.
way that
The
it
thing
ended.
about it was it wasn't over the top. Like there was nudity, but it wasn't. It wasn't like gratuitous. I
It
guess.
wasn't,
It wasn't just.
super explicit.
Yeah.
Which
It
kind of
wasn't
made,
like a filthy movie. It
it
was
kind of
just,
made me wonder
you know.
because the running time for the VHS is 80 minutes. The running time on IMDb was 144 minutes. So
That's a lot of extra footage.
I know, and I'm wondering, like, this seems so much like a movie that could have had all the porn inserts put in. You know, like for each one of these scenes, there could have been, you know, where they shot the regular movie like it could be on Italian TV,
Yeah.
you know, at 10 o'clock in the morning, probably, you know, whatever they do
Yeah.
over there.
And they had the easy modular like sex scenes.
But
that,
you know, like a lot of
could be
the
removed.
exploitation movies from the 70s, where they would add in like porn inserts, like for They Call Her One Eye, stuff like that.
yeah.
I feel like somewhere out there exists a version of Sex Machine that is obviously a lot longer, that has more explicit stuff going on. Either way, I probably don't need to see that
Yeah.
because, you know, I don't think it's going to add anything to the plot.
No.
But yeah, fuck, that was Sex Machine. Jesus Christ.
What a strange animal.
That was the weird as fuck. You know, I did not know what to expect. This was an American VHS released by the Media Company, which did a bunch of shit. Like, I mean, they even released, you know, a lot of action flicks and horror movies that we probably saw growing up.
Yeah.
So, and just by reading the cover, you know, the little bit that was on the front and back, I honestly thought it was an American sex comedy until I really dug into like a couple of the credits there.
Well, as soon as the opening credits started rolling, when the movie started, it was like, oh, this is an Italian movie. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, instantly it was just like, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's what's happening.
All of the, but you know, I would like to shout out that the dubbing in this movie was excellent. Like the actors, the voice acting was good.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it didn't feel out of place, even though it was the whole movie was dubbed.
The
Like,
lines were fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Again, you know, if I could ever somehow scrounge up like an original Italian version, like extended, I'm just curious to see what the fuck happens. But yeah, I'm not gonna like spend a whole lot of time on that.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus! All right, so yes, that was Sex Machine. So, what we have yet to do now is we need to figure out what we are going to be watching next time. Let me get to my list. Where the fuck did it go? All right. So, we're going to roll our D10 and figure out what our next A Die for Dead Formats title is going to be.
All right, here we go. 4.
Yeah. The City. Ooh, actually.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's read a synopsis. All right, we rolled a 4 for The City. This is one that I found, I think, on eBay for cheap. It has Don Johnson, Robert Forster, and Mark Hamill in it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And I think
this is going to be fantastic.
And I think Mark Hamill plays a serial killer. All right, so
I'm straight up into this.
So Miami Vice superstar Don Johnson and Star Wars Luke Skywalker Mark Hamill face off in this action-charged police adventure. Hamill plays an unpredictable psychotic who reveals a deadly grudge against a famous country singer played by Jimmy Dean. Who's also in the movie.
Jimmy Dean?
Jesus Christ.
The sausage king of
Robert
Chicago.
Forster teams up with Johnson to protect the singer and track down the assailant. This looks awesome. I remember seeing this and I was like, well, it's probably trash because it never got any other release. Of course, I haven't checked what Vinegar Syndrome's done this month, so you never know. But anyway, next up, The City. And I guess that kind of really does it for us today. So I just want to thank everybody for listening to Beautiful Disasters. Definitely reach out to us. You can hit us up on email, beautifuldisasterspodcast@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook, Beautiful Disasters Podcast. Give us suggestions. Let us know what you want us to do, what to check out, whether it's a regular episode, a schlock abuse, or even if you come across some crazy title that's never been released on any modern format past Laserdisc, let us know. We can maybe source it and add it to the list as we keep going. So outside of that, check out all the different shows on the GUI Network at GUIPodcast.com. And other than that, I've been the Grutz.
I've been Jesse Jones.
Thanks so much for listening.
Hey guys, Scotty Big Daddy Preston here, that's right, the Geek Father, asking you to join me here every other week with friends and family of the GUI Network as we go through all the trials and tribulations of being a geeky parent. So remember, join us or cry.
My name is Amy Bogard.
And I'm Mike the Hobbit.
And we are the hosts of Deeply Upsetting, where we use our expertise to answer your most upsetting hypothetical quandaries, such as, what non-winged animal deserves wings?
And what body part deserves a secret mouth?
Which cryptid is the worst roommate?
These questions and more that plague you will be answered on Deeply Upsetting, available anywhere you get your podcasts and at GUIPodcast.com.
GUIPodcast.com.